Hey everybody, welcome to another Sunday morning conversation. Today we're going to be speaking with Eliot Cole Scymanski. He is a second-year pro triathlete. He's got a lot of great experiences he wants to share with us today, so thank you for tuning in. I hope you enjoy. There you go, your audio.
Hey, how's it going?
I'm doing well.
I'm doing well. Can you hear me all right?
Yeah. That whatchamacallit, that reverb is gone.
All right, sounds good. How's it going?
I'm doing well, man. How about yourself?
Doing all right? Doing all right.
So, Eliot, you're part of the Sunto team, I see, right?
Yeah, this is my second year on the Sunto multisport team. Last year, 2 years ago as an amateur, and then last year halfway through switching to a professional, and then this full didn't really happen as a season, but this 2020 was my first full year as a professional on the team.
So what made you want to turn pro? What was because right now you're sitting at the back of the pack, bro, and honestly, I've watched you over the years because I go through every single race's results just to see the names that keep flipping up, and you race a lot, and I always saw your name on there, and once I saw you on Instagram, I'm like, I want to talk to this guy. But it's like, you've gotten faster every year, and I looked you up on Athlinks, and I was like, I don't know what this guy's ceiling is, but what made you want to turn pro, and what's your ambitions with it?
Yeah, well, hopefully it's high. I don't. Obviously, I don't know. Obviously, I have a sense of where, I've talked with multiple people. I wouldn't have committed to trying to make the leap to be a professional if I didn't think I could be good at it. I'm not, as you said, I'm not super interested in being. Let's say when I was winning things as an amateur, I was probably mid-teens in the pro pack on most of those races. If you moved it over, and that's good, but that's not. I like winning them. So that's always been the ultimate aspiration, is to figure out a way to be good enough to compete at the top. And so I swam in college, and I enjoyed swimming, but it left big. I definitely didn't get everything out of myself as an athlete in college. I thought I worked a lot harder than the results. The results would show, and I'm sure everybody thinks that, but I think switching over to triathlon when I was 21, 22, doing that as an amateur for 6 years, and almost immediately just seeing, when I worked harder, I went faster, and I almost never had that correlation in swimming as a pool swimmer, and that was frustrating.
Because I was a swimmer too, and man, it's tiny gains. Whereas in a triathlon, you see big gains, and you really feel that, and it drives you even further. Dropping that couple of tenths on a 100 free, it's not as driving as, wow, man, I dropped 10 minutes off my half Ironman. I'm really doing well.
Yeah, and that I also think some of the things that made me very good at, let's say, practice setting made me not as good at the meets. Like the swimming, as you know, the longest thing in swimming is 15 minutes if you're good, and that's never something I was actually going to be good at. I was going to be good at something that was 4 to 8 to 9 hours long, and that's not really an option in swimming. So I think that triathlon has allowed me to show who I actually was as an athlete, where swimming didn't. I think there's a lot of things I learned from swimming in terms of discipline and consistency, but I think I've learned a whole lot more in the preceding 8 years. 6.5 being an amateur, in the last year and a bit being a professional, than I ever did as a swimmer. So, but in terms of the motivation, to answer your actual question, why did I do this? I don't know. That feedback of starting to work hard and seeing progress, and just not being able to turn that off in my head, basically, of, if I continue this progression, if I stay healthy, if I, keep training for another 5 years like this, I could do that, what those people are doing. And I never felt like that in swimming, and I almost immediately felt like that in triathlons. And as soon as I started to get a taste of that, it's been hard. I've changed basically everything in my life to be good at this. And it's a huge risk because, it's not, even if it goes super well, it's not going to be, I'm not going to be a millionaire. I'm not going to be, rich and famous, but that's not really, I hope to be successful. That's why I'm doing it. But ultimately I'm doing it because I want to see how good I can get, and can I perfect every single area of it. And yeah, that's a long-winded answer, but that's.
Speaking of not being rich, I know I'm not, but are you still working a day job to pay the bills, or have you dove in full bore to being a pro?
Yeah, not really. I was a full-time swim coach for 7 years. 3 where I went to school at Franklin and Marshall in Pennsylvania, 3 at Dartmouth in New Hampshire, and then about halfway through that last year at Dartmouth is when I was reaching the peak. I was starting to plateau in how much time I could commit to triathlons, and I was still an assistant coach, and I needed to decide whether I was going to be a fully committed swim coach or a fully committed triathlete. And the calculation I made was that I can be a swim coach, my brain will hopefully work ahead for a long time, but my body, in terms of peak Ironman performance, will be done in 10 years. And so I made the decision to switch. I moved out to California with my girlfriend. I ended up coaching another year, actually, at CMS. But since I turned pro, no traditional full-time job, but I have a small coaching business, online coaching business. So I supplement a little bit with that. But no, really, my full focus is on training for triathlons. And yeah, it's once you see what is needed to be at the highest level and you start training like that, it is a very difficult thing to go backwards on. And so that's another reason that this year has been tough. I basically got 2 Ironmans and a half last year, and then I raced Bear Lake 2 weeks ago, which did not go well, and that's been it. And so there's a pretty big gap between what I think I'm capable of and what I've shown. And I knew it was good. The gap between the top of the age group field and even the podium of a pro field is huge, and I knew that. And so in many ways, this year has been super useful for that, because it's given me the time to athletically bridge that gap. But as you said, I raced a lot, and I like racing. It's I like finishing one block, doing the race, taking a day, and then starting again. And it's been I haven't been able to do that this year. So
Yeah, I mean, to touch on that, that the gap between the age group podium and the pro podium, that leads me into your decision to go pro. That kind of takes away that chance that I might never ever go back to Kona again. How did you feel about that? I mean, I'm not saying it's not impossible, but I mean, you're still some steps away from that, and there's always the chance that you might. Did that weigh in on your decision to go pro?
not for a second, really, because of how I answered the first question. That if I let's say I was never going to be satisfied with just continuing to win the age group field if I see my fitness levels improving. You know, that sort of ultimate pursuit of continuing to challenge, you know, if you're going to get the best results out of yourself, you need to be racing the fastest people. And I guess I was a little bit prepared for that because one of the, pretty much the only sport I follow is a sport called Formula One auto racing. And those guys are used to winning their entire career. You know, every little smaller series of racing, they've won every single thing to get there. And some of them will never win again. You know, they're at the highest level of motorsport and they might never win again. And when they do, it feels really good. And they, you know, and that sort of, that quiet 1 to 3 years between being successful at the amateur level and being successful at the pro level is tough. I feel extremely fortunate to have the support to, you know, you could say fake it till I make it. And I'm aware that that's not a forever situation. You know, I'm not naive that this is, I've had to suppress a lot of, you know, a lot of the things that make you very good at being a swim coach, being kind of just it's the kids first. I've had, you know, selfless, let's say. Being a professional triathlete is not selfless. It's selfish, if anything. And, you know, I've had to put that, I don't mean to, I don't feel bad. I'm happy with my decision, but I've had to put that side of myself aside to just focus on this fully. I think that's the only way I was ever going to be successful. So, you know, that gap was a bit scary, but I also think I have a coach who, his name's Andrew Yoder, and he, you know, we knew that the first time I raced a professional Ironman, I wasn't suddenly going to win it. You know, so on the bike, you know, I just had to, as hard as it was to watch the eventual winners just bike away, I had to just stick to my numbers. And, you know, that was the only way I was going to be successful and take a step forward, not try and take 5 years of step forward and fail, you know? So, but that takes a lot of self-control. And I don't know. I mean, I don't know whether I will get there. Sometimes I wish I did, you know, I wish that would defeat the purpose of sport, I'd say. But at the same time, it would be nice to know what was going to happen. But I think I know that I can end up on podiums in the next, 3 to 5 years. But I hope it's sooner than that, you know, but we'll see.
Yeah, you know, 4 hours Indian Wells, that's not, you know, you're inching closer to that, you know, the front of the pack pros. You're starting, you know, you've been making ground on them. That's, you know, that's pretty strong. You picked up the other two sports pretty well. You know, I saw at Mount Abroad that you cracked 9 hours, and that's, you know, a pretty big accomplishment yourself, because there's not that many people in the world who say, I've went under 9 hours in an Ironman, you know, there's very few people, you know.
Exactly. But if I had tried to go, you know, if I had tried to bike with, you know, Lionel Sanders and Cody Beals on that day, and maybe I could have, but I would have ran 4 hours, you know, so.
Well, you have to run your race.
Yeah, and that's tough because, and I guess the other really big difference is, and it's perhaps hard to admit this, but many of the racing dynamics that I have to learn now, you know, and I don't mean this to sound cocky, but I never learned them as an amateur because I was basically doing it by myself most of the time. And so the elements of drafting, or, you know, instead of just a bike split being, I'm looking at my numbers and I'm doing exactly what I'm not worrying about anybody else. You know, everybody's good. So you have to worry about everybody else. You know, I don't just swim away with it. There's other good swimmers, you know, everybody's good. And so maybe that's been tough, but I mean, I had to learn that stuff eventually, and I wasn't learning that in the amateur field. So perhaps it's more brutal to learn that stuff in a pro race, but you know, I'm only trying to go one direction. So I wasn't, does that make sense in terms of, you know,
Oh, yeah, I get it completely. You know, I mean, when it comes, I learned with the swim that I actually don't put all that much effort into it anymore. because I don't know if this would be the correct terminology, but after a lifetime of being a swimmer, I feel like I have this what I call residual talent to where I can lean on that and not have to dump a whole bunch of effort. And so I focus on the other two sports and try to get better to make up my race there. But, you know, if I could hang, in that top 50 in a, 2,500 person race, that's, that works for me. I don't have to win it. I don't have anything to prove. I got, two other legs to do with the race. So I get what you're saying. You kind of, you've got an ability there and you have to run your race. So you have to focus on the other parts that kind of get better. And you just can't, I guess, you can't let everybody else's race dictate how you do yours, especially when you're not at the front and you're working your way up there. One day you hopefully will be in that position to where, my race, I can hang with the rest, or my race can dictate how this goes today. You're not quite there yet, but
no, but I hopefully will be one day. And
dude, I love, like I said, I love combing to the results and seeing your name was one of those ones that always flipped up in there. So I mean, you've been an interesting story to follow. I like that Mont Tremblant split. I saw how, I think it was around a 4:54, if I recall right, on that bike. It's like, so that's, looking at that, there's plenty of room to work hard and make improvement. And, what are some ways that you're trying to knock off some of that time and achieve that?
yeah, well, to be honest, that was, both that bike split and the bike split at Mont Tremblant were, purposely, I'm not going to say conservative, but, they were a solid 15, 20 watts under what I probably thought I could do, really with the purpose of what I mentioned earlier. I wanted to have two solid races to start my professional career as opposed to, trying to have the perfect race right away. And so, yeah, the mental part was difficult. In both situations, I came out pretty far forward after the swim and, settled to, let's say, the 9, 10, 11th place range by the end of the bike. So watching 6 to 8 people go by you is, not the best sensation and not something I would ever have done before those two races. But
Totally been there, watching everybody fly by on the bike after you built the lead. Do that every single race.
yeah, but I usually, I usually don't let that happen. But if anything, I would say I was probably a little too cautious. But it's easy to say that now. But in terms of what I'm doing to improve, so I've done, I basically have done 3 Ironman blocks this year without doing an Ironman, this being the third one. And some of the things I really prioritize is strength on the bike. So strength and nutrition. So probably at least once a week, I'm doing a session of low RPM, sometimes threshold, sometimes Ironman reps, kind of depends specifically what the timetable of the season is, but something, and I'm talking 55 to 60 RPM. So really low, pretty uncomfortable, but making sure that my strength and my strength in the TT position is never the problem. And then in terms of the nutrition, I think that's probably one of my, the areas where I think I might be, able to take advantage of that in an Ironman setting, especially a hot Ironman setting. So making sure that I can take more and more nutrition than I ever have been able to while at Ironman effort is a pretty big focus, both on the bike and the run. And on the bike, that the sessions where that's really the focus are probably most effective inside on the trainer because, I live in Tucson, and one of the reasons I live here is because weather's pretty much perfect almost every day. But on a trainer inside, you can have 3,000 calories lined up next to you and simulate exactly how you would fuel in an Ironman situation. So strength in the Ironman position or in the TT position, and then nutrition at the TT level. Because let's say basically until I moved to the southern part of the United States, hot races were for sure my Achilles heel. And, I've changed many things. Maybe 3 or 4 years ago, I started incorporating salt pills on really hot days. I switched to essentially only liquid nutrition. So even in an Ironman, I won't have anything solid. It'll be 100% liquid, which, on hot days is much easier for your gut to absorb. You can't just do it. You have to, there's many feelings of hunger and different sensations that you have to take time to get used to, but that was a big improvement. I've changed my RPM drastically. When I first started biking, I was pretty convinced that you had to bike at 100 RPM all the time. And now I bike at probably 75 to 80 RPM on an Ironman effort. And so shifting more to the muscle side as opposed to the aerobic side to have more for the run. And then on the run, challenging my gut, challenging my stomach on brick runs, in the heat. So I'm very fortunate to have my girlfriend Nissa a lot of the time can bike next to me, which, that affords you the opportunity to keep trying to drink and take calories while running hard, which that's really the limiting factor. The last 90 minutes of an Ironman, it's, did you get all, let's say, 2,500 to 3,000 calories in on the bike, and did you keep eating for the first 2 hours so that you can just take water or soda, for the last 90 minutes. So those are really my two big, strength at the Ironman effort, both on the bike and the run. I guess I should mention, on the run, the way I achieve that is with hill reps almost every week. So sometimes they're 10 minutes, sometimes they're 30 seconds, but pretty consistently hill reps every single week as my means of strength. And then strengthening my nutrition so that I can still process nutrition, whether it's 100 degrees and I'm 5 hours in, it's still, my gut's still working.
So how do you think, I've seen you ride an Eventum these days. How do you think that's working with them, riding their bike? How do you think it's helped you these days?
How's the ride in the Eventum?
Mm-hmm.
For that, yeah. So it's been good. I've always wanted a bike with the integrated hydration, and I've just never had one. So this has been the first for that. So it has a top tube, which is, I believe, 42 ounces, so quite a bit. So historically, what I would have done is one bottle, so let's say 22 or 24 ounce bottle. Almost all the liquid calories I would eat in a half or a full, it's all in that one bottle. So pretty thick. It's like a gel. Now I have the chance to spread that out over 42 ounces. So in that top tube on the Ventum, that's where I'll keep basically enough to eat for a whole Ironman. And then I require quite a bit of water. So I'm a heavy sweater. And so taking salt pills and then having a front reservoir, which I add on. So typically the plan would be every aid station, I'm trying to refill that front one with fresh water. But the Ventum specifically, it's been great. It's I didn't know what to expect because I rode a road bike for the longest time, and then I had a very generously given to me an old felt, which I loved, and then I had a SIPO for 2 years, which I really liked that bike. That was nice. And then I had a Cervelo for the first year at Sunto, and then they switched sponsors right away. And I was fortunate to have made the switch to Pro then. So that's how I ended up with a Ventum, and it's been great. If you're in a good time trial position, a lot of bikes end up feeling a bit edgy in terms of, because you have so much weight over the front wheel. And, if they're fast, they're also a bit on the front. But this is probably in terms of handling and comfort, And like you said, of the ease of taking the nutrition, I don't know. It feels like a road bike basically. It doesn't exactly ride like a time trial bike, which I don't know if that makes sense, but it's not in terms of bumps and cornering and how comfortable I'm feeling moving my hands around. And I have 2 reservoirs, so you're doing a lot of straw work, and with that, it's been very good. I've only had one. I've done 2 time trials with it basically on my own, and then that one race, the race didn't go well, so I don't have much to say about how it worked there. But in training and in my time trials, it's been good. What do you ride? Do you have experience with it?
I've got a Cervelo P5 3 that I got after my accident. I love it. It's
Yeah.
I mean, there's a reason why Cervelo dominates the Kona bike count, because, I mean, they're just good bikes. It's not that Ventum's bad. It's just they're unique and they can be pricey. And so, but Cervelo's, I can't knock it. I mean, it's a great bike, and I don't think I've ever felt more comfortable sitting in a cockpit than I've been on that bike.
Yeah, and that's really what matters in terms of, like the things you just asked about improving in an Ironman is, are you actually still comfortable in your time trial position, hours 3 to 5 or whatever, how long it is? Are you still eating? Are you still comfortable that far in?
So what are your goals? What are your goals for the next few years? I mean, what are your benchmarks that you're setting for yourself? What do you?
Yeah, I think realistically, I probably need to be, if I want to keep doing this the way I'm doing this, I need to be successful within the next, I would have said before this season 2 years, but let's say 2 full seasons I need to be successful. And I would say successful meaning, consistently showing up on the podium in Ironmans. I'm pretty confident that the Ironman distance will ultimately be where I'm most successful. I did do pretty well in Olympics when I was younger, but I'm not naive about my ultimate potential in running. Is probably getting strong enough and figuring out how to run a 2:45 marathon in an Ironman. Not, am I ever going to run a 15-minute 5K? I don't know. Maybe not. 14, I don't know. But could I run a 2:45 marathon eventually at the end of an Ironman? Certainly. So really focusing on the Ironman distance, I would definitely like to be seeing consistent podiums within 2 years. I think that's a timetable that seems realistic with what I'm seeing in training, is fair to those who are supporting me in terms of, like I said, this is a selfish pursuit, if I'm honest. And
we all feel that way, or at least your spouse will tell you that.
Yeah. And I'm doing everything I can to make the most of it. And so for me, that's kind of my goals is, ultimately, yeah, it's easy to put numbers or things like that out there, but ultimately you just have to beat the people who show up. And, would I love to make it back to Kona one day? Absolutely. So that's probably the ultimate goal. But, there's a lot of things that happen along the way to getting there. And, consistently, if I can consistently start getting podiums, I see no reason why one of those couldn't turn into a slot race. It's kind of like, the first time you're there, you're scared of it, but the next time you're there, you're ready for it. And it's hard not to be intimidated because the level's very high, and, everybody looks good. Everybody looks good on their social media. Everybody looks good in their training. It's hard to just stay in your bubble, but, if I could be at Kona within 2 or 3 years, again, I could see this, prolonging to, my 30s, like doing this through my 30s to when I'm not good at it anymore. But that's kind of the timetable I've given myself, and the people supporting me, have given me. And so make it back to Kona within 3 years, I guess.
I mean, you're really not all that bad of a 70.3 racer either. Like I said, you went 4 hours at Indian Wells in your last attempt,
Uh,
and you
yeah.
know it
But
doesn't
same situation with the running. Am I going to be able to figure out how to run a 115 off a 2 hour bike? Yeah, hopefully at one point. But there's faster dudes. The Ironman, I think, is ultimately. But I think if you look at anyone who's really good at this sport, they can do both. They can go to Olympic if they want to. But I think my ultimate potential probably lies in the full.
Do you see yourself leaving the country to do any racing? I mean, other than Canada, and I don't count Canada because I lived in Ohio. It's like right there. So
yeah. Well, I raced in Montreal, or not Montreal. That was Canada. I raced in Auckland, New Zealand, or not Auckland. You're in Taupo, in the middle of the island. I did that as I think that was my last amateur Ironman. I don't know. Not this year maybe, but I'm debating. Well, I'm trying to do something the rest of this year. Ironman Arizona still seems to be happening, but
Challenge Daytona is still on the table. If you wanted to look at that, I'm still signed up for that. That's the only one that hasn't been deferred.
Yeah, that indeed, and then Ironman Cozumel. So that's kind of Ironman Cozumel is kind of the backup. Ironman Arizona is only 90 minutes away. So that, from a travel perspective, from an ease of climate change perspective, it's a direct transfer of temperature and heat, humidity. So yeah, I have, really the plan short term was to, is this year kind of disrupted it, but focus on domestic Ironmans for financial reasons. And, would I love to be globetrotting, go doing the next Ironman all year? Yeah, but that's not the reality financially. So, Arizona ends up being a very good place for basically anything west of the Mississippi I can drive to, and not have it be that crazy of a drive. Maybe what I consider a long drive is a little different than some people, but um, especially at this time in my career, I need to find a way to do it frugally to actually make it work, so that eventually I can do it. Go all over the world to do it, but at the moment, focusing on the ocean side, Santa Cruz, Texas, Arizona, Utah, Midwest races, things like that. Boulder, Colorado. There's 10 good races within a day's drive, day and a half drive of Arizona. So that's really my focus initially. And then like on that 2 to 3 year time scale is trying to be competitive and known, at the 4 or 5 biggest Ironmans that happen in North America. But obviously that's been a bit derailed this year, but I'm optimistic that I'm glad I stuck with it, and I'm glad I've had the opportunity, and that'll certainly be my goal next year. Maybe I will.
I looked at I wrote an article back in April about Challenge family expanding their series and making a NASCAR series, and little I know, like 5 months later, it's actually started happening. The March race, and is that a race you would ever consider doing? Since it is, the humidity is different in South Florida than it is in Tucson, but
Yeah.
it's still a warm weather race, and it's an early season race. If you wanted to open up your season earlier.
Yeah, no, it's definitely because I did La Quinta last year, and that was similar. I think it was 1 week before. So yeah, no, it's if these things don't happen, that's probably where I'm going. So it's and that uncertainty has been probably the biggest difference this year. Like I said, I like the plan. I like to know when I'll take my rest days. I like to know when I'll start to build. I like to know. I'm sure everybody does. That's not just me. That's in terms of this year. Everybody's been disrupted. And it is bad timing in some ways, but in other ways, I've also thought that it's excellent timing, because if this had happened a year ago in my triathlon life, I would have stopped, not because I wanted to, but because it would have been a bad idea, if it was literally 1 year earlier, I still would not have had my pro card. And at that point, this would have seemed, the answer would have been, Elliot, go get a normal job again. And it would have been the right thing for people to say to me. So I'm actually very fortunate, that it happened, the COVID and everything got canceled when it did, and not, I already had my pro card. I had already proven that I was going to take this seriously. Would it be nice if I was 5 years in and I had already had podiums and made it kind of? Sure. But at least I still have the chance to do it.
So you say a lot of your run comes from doing hill workouts. Do you learn to love the track? Do you do Tuesday track workouts? Or,
I don't do much group stuff. So I used to, when I was still an amateur, I used to, like you said, do a Tuesday track session or go do a Wednesday group ride. But especially with Ironman work, it's very specific stuff, and you're flirting on the edge of going too hard all the time. So I don't do much. I definitely do track work, but let's say the progression would go during the initial volume build and the VO2 work into threshold work phases of an Ironman build. So let's say the first 1 to 4 weeks of a 16-week cycle, or maybe even more, let's say 1 to 8 weeks, that would be, all of the speed work would be done on a hill. And then 100%, never do anything, maybe do change of pace, but true speed work of reps, it's 100% on a hill. And then once you switch to true Ironman specific work of blocks, kind of like what I'm doing right now, and then you translate that to, track sessions or Ironman bricks and things like that. But if I had to give it a percentage, when I'm doing a 70.3 specific work, there's a lot more time on the track. There's probably twice as much time on the track. But during an Ironman, it's maybe a 2 or 3 week phase, maybe not at all, and maybe just switching from the hill reps right to negative split or Ironman specific pace work. So no, it's because that's the difference between focusing on ITU work or Olympic. Those people 2 or 3 times a week, they need to be on a track running fast, 200s, 400s. It's very hard to do that and keep up the volume necessary for Ironman work. So it's a trade-off. But at the moment, to be honest, I get almost all my quality work from hill reps as opposed to on the track.
So you say you do training with your girlfriend. How much training you do with her? Where did you find her at? Where can I find one to do that with?
Well, she's pretty great. She actually comes from a tennis background, but I don't know, her dad swam, so she must have some swimming in there, but we swim together as our most easy runs. She's running a bit harder than I am, but it keeps my easy, and we get to run together, which is very nice. Most of the swims, and making the paces converge with, I'm wearing things to make me slower, she's wearing things to make her faster, but recently she's getting fast enough that she's improving, because she never swam growing up. And then, a lot of support on long brick runs. So, the ability to have somebody biking next to you with nutrition available, is a huge asset. And I feel very lucky for it, because I've done plenty of times when I was living by myself as a coach and things like that. It was loops to a water bottle back to the car, like what everybody does, or Camelback, and so I feel very fortunate. And it's she's not she doesn't do triathlons. She could if she wanted to, but it's not. She's doing it for different reasons. She likes working out. We enjoy the companionship. I think in the pool, she's finding that when you get into something late in life, you can improve a lot, and that's one of the things I always enjoyed as a swim coach is, I gave a lot of swim lessons to triathletes, and you can make somebody improve a whole lot more with some technique when they're 40 years old than you're ever going to improve spending hours in the pool when you have poor technique. So it's been fun to watch her figure all swimming out, and aerobic sports are quite different from tennis. I'm sure I don't need to tell you that. So she has to get out of her, watch her play tennis, and you'll realize she's just as good at sports. Just she's doing something else now.
Yeah. You don't happen to have a relative by the name of Megan, do you?
Megan, I don't think so. I mean, I might have a lot of cousins on one side.
With the same last name as you, and on Instagram, and her name was Megan. I'm like, I wonder if they're related. So,
I don't.
Speaking of coaching, tell me more about how your coaching business.
Yeah, so it's gone through a few iterations. So when I was at Dartmouth, last year, that's when I started doing online coaching. So it started as people who are Dartmouth is in the Upper Valley, which is kind of midway through Vermont and New Hampshire. And so it started as a very local thing. And I enjoyed it because at that point I had in my head that I was going to try to find a way to leave swim coaching. And there's many reasons that I decided to leave swim coaching, not just triathlon. But the thing that I really missed right away was the in-person leading a practice. That was probably the most fun part for me, is getting the most people. And initially, coaching, it was tough to do that because I moved a lot. I moved from New Hampshire to Southern California and now to Arizona. So, I didn't have that consistent base of people who, knew what I was about, knew me as a swim coach, knew me as things like that. So, but fortunately, I've had a few of the people I initially started with, and then a couple I've picked up along the way. So it's still small. I'm coaching, depends on the time of the year, but 3 to 5 people. And it's mainly online, but I learned to enjoy, I use Training Peaks, but I've learned to enjoy that in the way I used to enjoy actually manipulating or coaching a practice. And that took a while because finding different ways to get the feedback from people. So whether it's the comments or text or weekly calls, or doing video review with swim footage, that's, I thought that was going to be challenging. Like, I'm good at helping people get better at swimming. How do I do that virtually? But turns out you can do voiceovers pretty easily, and you can talk to people, have them have their partner film them, and you send it, and I've found ways to be effective at that. So, it's been good. I think, I wish it was bigger, but I think some of moving across all the country, some of me, I'll be perfectly honest, I am not a salesman, and I am not, I really like helping people. I like coaching people. I like seeing people improve, but I do have trouble putting myself out there to advertise. It's not me. It doesn't feel natural. So that's been a bit of I think some of the things about swim coaching that I did like was that there was a structure, and I responded well to that. It helped me that, this is when practice was going to be, and this is when the recruiting season is. This is when the meet season is. This is when you get 2 weeks off, So recreating that structure has been something I've learned, but now the other side of that is that there is no set structure. So, I have one of my people is going back to visit his son on an Indian reservation right now. So obviously not a big week for him, but one of my other clients, has basically floated with different training all year because all his races got canceled, but now he's focusing for races in December and March. So now I've learned to enjoy that. And I also think it helps, you know, when I was a swimmer, if I had had experience coaching earlier in my swimming career, I would have been a better swimmer for sure. Because I think I was a pretty good listener to my coaches, but I would have been a better listener, and I would have put more mental energy into that little comment that now I understand. But maybe at the time I was just 16 years old and just wanted to swim fast and didn't pay attention quite enough. But as soon as I started coaching, I began to understand the things that people actually pick up on, and not always exactly what you're telling them. It's maybe that one little last comment you made. So I was a better swimmer. You know, I was a better athlete after I started coaching. And so I think that's one of the things nothing to do with monetary or financial gain of getting from it. Personally, I get the ability to be self-critical because I have to take everything I've learned, take everything that they're telling me, and I have to regurgitate that into a training plan that works. I think stale or, copy and paste training plans really do people a disservice. I think I look for people who come into me with the mindset of, and not everybody's like this, and I understand, but I want to be good in 3 years, or I have an Ironman in 2 years or 18 months. Can you get me ready for that? But when people say, I'm ready to do my first Ironman 2 months from now, the answer is sorry. It's not going to happen. And so I've taken on a few people who were literally just in it and this is some of the moving across the country. Instead of meeting everybody who I end up coaching by organic means of biking by them every once in a while and them approaching me or master swimming or something, it's advertising. And I've gotten a few people who just, it was very obvious right away that we were in it for very different reasons. But so that's something else I've learned. I've figured out how to, while I'm asking people questions while they're interviewing me initially, I have a much better sense, and I have things that I listen to about why are you doing this? Are you doing this because you're going to enjoy seeing improvement over the next 2 to 5 years, or are you enjoying doing this because of Instagram or something superficial, or I just want to be good now? So I've learned a lot from that. And so initially, I guess now I do it under the banner of ECS Racing, and it's been good. I think Tucson's probably the place for me for at least as long as I continue, the same timetable I gave you earlier, see if it works in the next 2 to 3 years. So it's been nice to start to get to know the bike shops and see people around town be more consistently. And so I hope to be able to grow it here moving forward locally.
Well, you seem to be doing a pretty good job selling it yourself.
I've tried.
So I guess the last question I have for you is, what's been the biggest surprise you've had since you started doing this? Not since you just have since you started doing triathlons, what have you found to be the most surprising thing, whether it's about yourself or racing or training? What do you think?
Well, I guess I'll give you two. I mean, one about myself and then one about the things I can't control. And I guess that's kind of my answer. It doesn't matter how fit you are. There's always going to be things you can't control. And I can't tell you how many things I've screwed up in races. And, and luckily a lot of the time it still worked out. But, the biggest surprise for me was how unpredictable something seemingly so, go for a swim, go for a bike, go for a run. But, I'm sure you can't imagine how many things can go wrong in that situation. And I've gained a lot from that. I've gained a lot of patience with temper, thinking about what's the emotional reaction I want to have now versus what's the emotional reaction that's actually going to get me through this race. I mean, I can think of situations where, in the first 2 or 3 years of racing where I came into transition way ahead, and I ran to the wrong gate, and where's my shoes? I'm blaming other people, right away. And that, I look back on that now, and that was crazy. But now I've taken wrong turns. I've been led off. In the race where I qualified to be a professional, I dropped that bottle that I said, my entire nutrition. But by that point, to show where that actually ends up being working out is in that situation. So that's, I don't know how much it was, but let's say it's 700 calories. Everything I was planning on eating was dropped 5 minutes into that bike. 2 years before that, I would have panicked. That year or that day, I decided to grab 5 gels over the next 2 aid stations. It was something I had never done before that. But, and that took 6 years of racing to figure that out. Yeah, I got a lot fitter, but that's probably been the biggest surprise to me, how many different challenges just from a racing, nothing else than that. And then about myself, I don't know. I mean, I guess I'm pretty happy with the progress I've made. I think there's a lot more to come, but I guess I'm just continue to be surprised when it works. It's I don't know how to say that. I don't know how to say that and make that sense, but I've been surprised that, but happy that when you're consistent and you listen to your coach and you make sacrifices, you get rewards. And, swimming did not prove that to me. I don't know why I stuck with it for so long, but it did not prove that to me. And this has, and it surprised me. So I'm happy that it surprised me, but yeah.
Yeah, I completely understand. I was in a race last year where on the bike I was riding over some railroad tracks, and they didn't have the mat down right in the right spot. So I lost all my hydration with the electrolytes in it. And I didn't have any other options at the time because their aid stations were only water. It was small, independent, half Ironman. It's like, but had this been 5 years earlier, like the time where I double flatted, I would have probably, lost my shit. But, after 5 years of racing, there's always going to be something that you don't expect. So whether it's big, small, you just have to find a way to adapt and get through the race.
Yeah, I guess one other thing, I should say that's been surprising is, I knew this was going to be difficult. I knew this was going to be a non-traditional route through the end of my 20s, early of 30s. And, I knew I was going to need a lot of help, but I don't think I fully appreciated that. And I think that's been, I just continue to be very thankful for people who have, hopefully I show people that it's worth their commitment and perseverance of sticking with me. But, I thought it was going to be hard, and it's been harder. But I personally, I enjoy that. I enjoy, this has been the only thing in my life in terms of where I see, this is the clearest path I see, let's say, if that makes sense. And, I'm sure I will have many opportunities after this in life. Coaching, I went to school to study environmental studies. I'm very interested in renewable power and sustainability and things like that. So I know I have other pursuits after this, but at the moment, this seems like the right thing, and I'm trying to make the most of it because I know it's a short window.
Short window, and there's a very long life to live after it's over. So, well, yeah. Eliot, man, thank you for coming on here and talking with me today. It's been great. I really liked it.
I appreciate it, and thank you for following along. You don't have to, so I appreciate you tracking the results, and hopefully we can chat when I have some more results to talk about.
Honestly, if you keep heading up, yeah, we'll definitely talk another day down the road. I mean, I'm sure you're going to have more stories to say and more accomplishments to talk about.
So what's next week? Thinking of Challenge Daytona?
Huh?
What's next for you? You're thinking Challenge Daytona?
That's the only race I have coming up, but I've kind of been on hiatus for 6 months, like Oprah in the summer, and I'm a little bit out of shape, so it's gonna be ugly.
It'll come back.
Yeah. So I mean, I actually have to start like training again. I think I struggle to do 2 miles, but I have someone who's gonna try to start getting me out running again. I happen to live by the only like one of the few flat parts in Atlanta because if you've never been here, it's relatively hilly because we're in the foothills. So, hey, look, I live at the bottom of technically a mountain. It's a small mountain, but it's a good place to do hill repeats.
Well, I'm telling you, it's the so I had no background. The first time I ran, my dad was a runner in high school and college, but for some reason that did not that did not lead to me running as a kid. But I had a coach my senior year of college who that was the first time I ran a little bit as a swimmer, and then yeah, it's taken a long time to figure out running, but hill reps have definitely been a big factor in that. Teaching good strength with good form and not as much impact, which is in terms of not getting shin splints or things like that, it's great.
Mm.
And if it's dirt, it's even better.
Yeah. Well, thanks again, Eliot. Best of luck to you.
Yeah, it was good to chat, and I hope everything's good on your end and you can get some training in.
Yeah. Have a good weekend.
All right, bye, Eric.
Thanks, guys, for watching another Sunday morning conversation. If you liked what you saw, please do like and subscribe. And if you want to see more of them, click the little bell notification and it'll tell you whenever I post another one. Thanks again, guys.